show on the road then. So here's what I want to show you. This is what Edmodo looks like for me. Can you all see my screen?
No.
I should probably push the button that says share screen. That'd probably help.
Probably.
How about now? How's it look? A little better?
Yeah, I see it.
Yep. Okay, cool. So here's your biology page. You go to folders, and the top folder is the chapter you're currently on. This is where you got all your notes from last chapter. So go into your invertebrates folder. This is everything for this chapter. There are 3 short PowerPoints. They're separate. Invertebrates, Invertebrates 2, Invertebrates 3. Real straightforward stuff. There's labeling worksheets that are like straight out of Google Images. They're straight out of the PowerPoint. You can do those whenever you want, okay? I'll tell you when they come up in a lecture, but if you want to do them all tonight and be done with the chapter, be my guest. If you want to do them as they show up in the notes, by all means, please do so. If you want to show them to me or send me a picture on Edmodo, I'll give you points for them. I really don't care too much about it. But you're labeling a really simple animal called a hydra. You're labeling an earthworm. You're labeling a clam. And you're labeling this really weird flatworm called planarian. And I'll get you guys due dates as we get for those closer to that time for next week. But that's everything you need for this chapter. Any questions about resources and where to find them? Clear as mud? Perfect. All right, very good. Oh, I got somebody in the chat box. This must be Tanner. It says you have to do them all or at least half. I'll get you assignments, Tanner. Here's the deal. They're all fair game for the test. Do them all. I don't know if I'm going to give you homework points for them. Doesn't really matter. The focus is the learning, not the busy work. But they're all on fair game for the test. So, yes, Tanner, do them all. It's very, very easy to do. So, thanks for asking that question. All right. There's the Edmodo thing. Let's move on to invertebrates. If I'm moving too quick, you let me know, and I can slow down these notes. But don't be shy to raise your hand or something along those lines. So chapter 15, I do not care what chapter it is. It's invertebrates, all critters without a spinal cord. And this is kind of fun, actually, because we finally get into animals. The other cool thing about this chapter is we get – hold on, I'm going to mute. I got somebody who's got a lot of breeze coming in where they're at. Give me 1 second. Oh, let's see. Oh, they took care of it. Perfect. Thank you. And so at any rate, here's your chapter. Basically what I was saying was that we get away from things that are really tough to understand, like phosphoglyceraldehyde and those kind of things. And we get into simple stuff like spinal cords and lungs and livers and like really logical things that I think you're going to have a pretty easy time with. So let's start with simple terms. Zoology is one you should know. Zoologist is somebody who just studies animals. Zoology is the study of animals. So the study of the animal kingdom, zoology, that's everything from really teeny tiny, almost microscopic flatworms that you can hardly see up to, elephants and blue whales. If it's an animal, it's in zoology. If you think about it from a biblical point of view, this was probably the first job that Adam had, was him naming the animals in Genesis chapter 2. If you think about it, that's taxonomy. That's zoology, right? I guess he skipped the flowers and the plants and just went straight to the fun stuff, and did the animals first. So that's taxonomy and studying animals, understanding about how animals live and feed and reproduce. And basically every system we go through, we're always looking pretty big picture, and our goal is going to be the same thing each time. How do they sense their environment? How do they get food? How do they reproduce? How do they grow up, right? Really straightforward stuff. How does this animal make its living? And so let's talk about this. What does it take to be an animal? Vertebrate, invertebrate, I don't care. All animals have certain characteristics, okay? Bacteria were living, but they weren't in the kingdom Animalia. They were in the kingdom Eubacteria, right? Viruses were non-living. So now we're talking about things that belong in kingdom Animalia. So not protists, not amoebas, and not fungus. Other than that, everything's fair game, okay? It's a lot of animals. So first thing, you might not have to write this down. This is pretty self-explanatory stuff. Don't necessarily memorize this, but animals have to move. No duh, right? Plants are stationary. Fungi are kind of stationary sometimes, but plants are animals are moving rather. Animals have to move. They have to move to obtain food. Some of these movements can be small. They might not necessarily get up and walk. Okay, there's other types of movement, but they do have to be moving. The other thing they need is some sort of support. There's two big fields of support, essentially. You have something's got to support this animal, keep this animal up against the force of gravity, all right? One option is an exoskeleton. Exoskeletons you've actually already learned about. A long time ago, we learned about a carbohydrate called chitin and made cockroaches make a nasty crunching sound when you step on them. And an exoskeleton is what that chitin was making. So an exoskeleton is found in lobsters and insects. And basically the hard structures that support this scorpion's body is on the outside of his body. And they do a very good job, as opposed to our endoskeleton. You and I have an endoskeleton, means the supporting structures, our bones, are inside of our body, and the muscles and skin and squishy stuff is on the outside of the bones. So, who thinks they can tell me an advantage that an exoskeleton has over an endoskeleton? Show of hands or type in the chat box. What's a good thing about an exoskeleton, if you had to guess? Don't be shy. You can make a guess. Even if you're wrong, I'll tell you you're right. You're shy. You're like, this is going on YouTube. I'm not guessing on YouTube. How about a downside? Is there a downside? Thomas Roeder, it's harder to kill them. Jaden, better protection. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, it's hard to squish a beetle, right? Like, they're tough. It takes a lot of force where that beetle crunches. So an exoskeleton is super, super strong, and there's a huge advantage for that animal. But there's also a disadvantage. What's the disadvantage to an exoskeleton? You can type it in the chat box. I won't even say your name, so it won't be on YouTube. Yes, it will. All right. Yeah, Don, what do you think?
Is it when you grow, you can't go up, you have to take your protection off?
Good answer, Don. Good answer. Yeah, that's exactly right. The exoskeleton causes a problem called molting, which is as this scorpion grows up, what's this say? He is a genius. Yes, he is. Okay. So as the scorpion grows up, his body gets bigger and bigger, and eventually he's touching that shell, and he can't grow any bigger. So what he's got to do is he's got to split that shell and push his entire body out of that shell and grow a new exoskeleton. Now it's a little bit inconvenient, but it's super dangerous because during the time he's doing this, a scorpion, or I've only ever seen it with a crawdad in a lake. I've seen a crawdad do it. Well, that's not true. I've seen insects do it too. But during the time when they're pushing out of that skeleton, they're like very, very soft bodied, if that kind of makes sense. They don't have that protection anymore. So until you grow a new exoskeleton, you are basically easy pickings for birds, fish, whatever wants to eat you, because you're just a soft little nougat in the form of a crawdad with no hard crawdad skeleton, if that kind of makes sense. Same with lobsters, same with, anything with an exoskeleton. They got to molt out of that. That's a bad thing. So you and I, good answers, guys. You and I have an endoskeleton. Benefits to this, we are a little more flexible. We are lighter. Exoskeletons are very heavy. Per their size, insects are quite dense. You and I are a little bit lighter. We have these in the form of bones, cartilage, both. You and I have both. Cartilaginous sharks rely almost entirely on the cartilage, no bones. It just depends on the animal. Most animals we're going to be talking about with an endoskeleton are going to be cartilage and bones both. Most of the animals you think of, everything on this, fish, dog, frog, person, all has bones with cartilage. Tendon connects a muscle to a bone. Ligament connects a bone to a bone. Okay? That's stuff that kind of knits us together. Questions over endoskeleton or exoskeleton or any of that kind of stuff? What don't you have a clue about, Cortland? Oh, that was to her answering a question. I got you. Okay, thanks. All right. Protective body coverings. This can go with the exoskeleton, but some sort of protective body coverings. We're talking about things that keep us safe from predators, things that keep us safe from the environment. For you and I, it's more or less the environment because we don't have that many natural predators. We killed them all, unless you're swimming in the ocean, maybe. So things like feathers in birds, obviously, scales in reptiles and fish, shells for turtles and crabs and crawdads, fur for most mammals, skin for you and I, and quills if they're modified, like on a porcupine or a hedgehog or something like that. You and I mostly rely on our skin. It doesn't seem like it protects us all that much. If a dog bit you, it'd go right through your skin. But basically, it's protecting. You think about what's underneath of that. It's going to go skin, fat, nerves, arteries, veins, oil glands, sweat glands, and muscle, right? So you don't want wind and debris and sunlight and rain and that kind of stuff going straight onto your muscle. That would be bad and you would get infected. So obviously your skin does an awesome job of protecting you. You can spill a lot of things on your skin, hot stuff, freezing stuff, acidic stuff, and it does a very, very good job of protecting what's really important, which is the neurons, the blood supply that can't get bacteria in it and get infected, that kind of stuff. And so there's a kind of a no-duh thing why you have skin. Fourth thing an animal needs is some sort of nutrition. All the animals we're talking about are heterotrophic, which means what? What's heterotroph? Don, what's it mean?
They eat other animals to get their food.
Exactly. Other animals, other plants, fungi, whatever, doesn't matter, but they got to eat something. Those animals cannot feed themselves. They're not autotrophs. They're not photosynthetic. So there's basically three parts in nutrition. Number one is called ingestion. Ingestion is literally bringing in food. And so getting food in is to ingest. And there's lots of different ways to do this. Most of our animals that we're going to talk about have a mouth and an esophagus and a stomach. Sorry, I'm getting some background noise. I got to mute somebody here. Not sure who's unmuted. Anyways, that's all right. And then there's digestion. Digestion is going to be to break that food down into the usable parts. And so in the stomach, in the small intestine, kind of depends on the animal we're talking about, we're going to break down food using enzymes. Enzymes are chemicals that are specific to, well, let's not say that. That's not true. Enzymes are proteins that are specific to breaking down a particular type of chemical. Like when you eat food and you have saliva coming out of your salivary glands onto your food, there are enzymes that are specifically in your saliva to start breaking down those carbs, okay? Then there's a whole different set of enzymes in your stomach that's going to focus on proteins. Then there's many enzymes in your small intestine that are going to work on the smaller carbs, proteins, DNA. And so we have specific enzymes in us that digest food. And it's no different for other animals, really. That's not true. It's very different. I'm just trying to paint with a broad brush here. And then assimilation. Assimilation is a tough thing to understand, kind of a tough word as well. But assimilation is becoming you, or becoming part of the culture. If you're culturally assimilated, like you dress like they dress, you talk like they talk, you're assimilated into the culture, you became part of the culture. Assimilation in biology means I took the protein from the cow, ate it as a steak, chewed it up, ingested it, went to my stomach, digested it with the enzymes, and we broke that protein down into some big old peptides. We broke those peptides down into individual amino acids, and we've got little bitty, teeny, tiny molecules that are like just lysine, just isoleucine. They're just amino acids, right? Now I'm going to take those and put them in a new, different order to make my own proteins to make an eyelash. I don't know, pick a protein, doesn't matter, right? So that was protein that was in a cow, but now it is my eyelash, right? And to do that, I had to break it down into its individual pieces and rebuild those Legos, those amino acids in the shape I want them in to become part of me. Does that kind of make sense? Give me a thumbs up if that kind of makes sense, because assimilation is a weird concept. I've got like 4 thumbs up, so I'm gonna take that. That's great. And when you consider I got like 5 cameras on, that's 80%. So you guys are doing great. Okay, and then respiration. All animals have to respire. Now, this can be done with gills. This can be done with lungs. This can be done through their skin. There's a lot of ways you can do respiration, but you have to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide with your environment. We want the oxygen in. We want the CO2 out, right? That's the reciprocating relationship we have with plants. The plants want the CO2 in. The plants give off the oxygen. The animals take the oxygen in. They give off the CO2. Round and round and round she goes. God's perfect design runs great. Okay, so everybody understand respiration? You feel okay about that? You breathe, your lungs pull air in. We keep living. Awesome. A little more complicated than sponges and snails, but, you know, same idea, right? You got to get oxygen in. Otherwise, you get a bad case of the deads. Okay, so what's next? Circulation. You have got to transport the materials, oxygen, CO2, amino acids from the steak you ate, throughout your entire body. Now, you and I have a crazy cool circulatory system. That thing is way tricked out. We've got heart and arteries go to arterioles, and arterioles go to capillaries, and capillaries go everywhere, and then veins go back to the heart, and then we take it to the lungs, and like our blood goes everywhere, and it's awesome, and it's contained in these teeny tiny arteries, and we can control their size and control the blood pressure, and we are like super fancy with circulatory system. Not all critters are that fancy, okay? But they all get the same job done, which is get the nutrition from your food, disperse throughout the tissues of the body of that animal, and get the waste material collected somehow and get it out of there. There's a lot of different ways to do that, but you got to have that done. Okay, next thing is excretion. How do you get rid of your waste? Again, it's different in every animal. It's different in a sponge, different in a worm, different in a person. You and I get rid of our waste in a couple of ways. Anybody want to guess one? Wyatt's clapping his hands. Wyatt, are you here at the meeting? He's got no speaker. You can type in the chat box, Wyatt. I'll keep an eye on you. He's got a thumbs up. That's cool, Wyatt. Someone else stole the name Angry Beef. Wait, Angry Beef is gone. Wyatt has returned as Wyatt. Okay, cool. Whatever. It works. I'm happy he's here. All right. So anybody want to do a thumbs up who thinks they might know one way we excrete materials we can't use? It's going on YouTube. Keep it school appropriate. Okay, Lauren, make a guess.
Sweat.
Sweat. That's a good one. Yeah, you do get small cellular debris coming out in sweat. Not tons and tons of it like you might imagine, but yeah, you do excrete some waste through sweat. What we're really good at excreting is with these magical little organs called kidneys. Those things are pretty cool. Your blood goes through your kidneys, and your kidneys take all the bad stuff out of your blood plasma and condense that down. The unusable stuff becomes urine, and that's going out of the body, right? So we excrete the stuff we can't use, the waste materials through kidneys, defecation, a little bit in sweat, that kind of stuff. So you can't, there's no such thing as 100%, right? You can't use 100% of the food you eat. There's always going to be waste. That's the second law of thermodynamics for the physics nerds in the house. All right, next thing, response. Every animal, invertebrate, vertebrate, whatever, have got to respond to stimuli, perceive and respond to stimuli. Again, this can be very complicated. It can be very simple. You and I have a really complicated brain with a really well-developed frontal lobe, and we're making decisions, solving problems, making plans, and that kind of stuff. You feel how much, what the temperature is in your room. You sense how much daylight's coming in, how much noise is coming in. You make decisions based on these stimuli, and you respond to them, right? It could be something as simple as you poke a worm and the worm contracts, right? That's a very simple response to the stimulus. That guy's got no eyeballs. He's got no ears, but you poked him and he contracted down in, right? That's a response to a stimulus. So living animals, they have to respond to a stimulus. And then reproduction. Animals don't reproduce. They will go extinct. That is a fact. So no duh. You have to continue on the species. If your sponges are going to be sponges, or your worms are going to be worms, your frogs will be frogs, They have to have little baby sponges and little baby worms, little froglets and tadpoles. Otherwise, they're not going to be around for a whole lot longer. All pretty simple stuff so far? Give me a thumbs up if this is pretty simple stuff. We're going at a pace you can. All right, cool. That's what I like to see. Let's talk symmetry before we're done. This is maybe not so simple. Symmetry, for you guys who've taken geometry, is you got the same thing on both sides. That's symmetrical, right? So with animals, there's a lot of different types of symmetry. The first one, with spherical symmetry is pretty rare, but you can have spherical symmetries where an animal's a perfect ball, and you can cut them any way you want to cut them, but you'll always have a perfect circle. A more common is asymmetrical. Asymmetrical means without symmetry. A means without, right? So asymmetrical is an animal that it doesn't matter how you cut it, you will never get a mirror image. Now, bear in mind, a mirror image does not have to be perfect, okay? But it should be pretty close to perfect. And so there's a lot of different types of symmetry. You can be a perfect sphere, you can have no symmetry, or you can have radial symmetry. What's the word radial remind you of? Type it in the chat box, holler it out. Radial, what's it remind you of? Nobody.
Circle.
A circle, a radius, right? So a radius is half the distance of a circle, right? Is that right? Diameter is all the way across, radius is half. Okay, it's been a long time since I've done geometry. A radio. Thanks, Carson. A radio. Yeah, it does remind me of radio. Yep. So radial symmetry, you cut it into equal halves along its length. And what that basically means is this thing has a top and a bottom, but it has no left or right. So looking down on this animal, the animal is a circle. You can cut it any way you want, and you get a mirror image no matter how you cut it, looking straight up from the top. But if you look on the side, you might not get that same image. Like this could be the view of, this is going to be a bad drawing, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness, that's not even close to a circle. All right, this is the view of the top of a jellyfish. It doesn't matter how I cut that jellyfish, I'm going to get half a circle and half a circle. Now this is the view of the side of a jellyfish. Whee! Wow, that's a good jellyfish. All right, and now I can't necessarily cut him. He definitely has a top and a bottom. I can't cut him this way and get a mirror image, right? Or this way and get a mirror image. I only have to go from the top. So when an animal is a circle, you're talking about radial symmetry. But now we come to you and I. Bilateral symmetry. Bilateral means two sides. Bi is two, laterals to the side, bilateral, two side. You can cut it into left and right, but that's it, okay? So people are a great example of this. And I wouldn't enjoy the experience, but if you cut me just like so, right here, right? Nose all the way down, straight in half, okay? You'd have an eye and an eye, one ear, right lobe of my brain, left lobe of my brain, connected by a corpus callosum. You'd have a lung and a lung, a kidney and a kidney, arm and arm, leg and leg. You'd have an almost perfect mirror image. All the internal organs, just perfect, right down the line. Except for you'd have a little more liver here and a little more stomach here. Not exactly a mirror image, but it's close, right? Everything's paired. Lungs are paired, kidneys paired, arms are paired, everything's paired. So bilateral is two-sided. Okay. Questions about the types of symmetry? How you feel about them? Give me a thumbs up. Feel okay? Feel okay? All right. Put your notes away. We got 2 minutes. I'm going to do a review, and then we're going to call it. From Wyatt to everyone. Can't draw a circle. Me either, Wyatt, unless you're criticizing me, in which case, yep. Okay, so here you go. Everybody got their notes away? 2 minutes for review. See if you can do this. I know you can do it. Unless you can't, then I'm wrong. All right. Give me a thumbs up or unmute yourself and holler it out. What kind of symmetry do you think is in this critter?
No symmetry.
No symmetry. I agree. What's the technical term for no symmetry?
Asymmetrical.
Got it. Nice answer, Jaden. Okay, next. What kind of symmetry is in this flower? Dawn's got a
Radial
thumb up.
symmetry.
Oh, somebody said it. Radial symmetry. You got it. Yeah, we could cut this guy any way you want to cut this guy, and you're going to get just a perfect image on the left and the right. Whoops, that line went a little weird. And you'll be just fine there. But if you looked at the flower on the side, it's obviously got a skinny green stem and then a big purple flower on the top. So radial symmetry is correct. All right. How about old Mr. Sea Turtle here? What's he?
Bisymmetrical?
Bisymmetrical, two symmetry. If we did this, which we wouldn't because we love sea turtles, all right, we cut that guy like that. We'd get an eyeball and a front flipper, back flipper. I don't know where turtle kidneys are, but I'm assuming kidney, lung. I don't know what else turtles got in them. 100 eggs. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, good answer. He's bisymmetrical. Sea turtles, I tell you. All right. Next and last. How about this guy? I'll give you a hint. This is a trick question. I just did this to be mean. I would never put this on a test. This is downright mean. He's bisymmetrical. Yes, he is. Good answer. You got 2 eyes on each side, the same number of legs on each side. Internal organs are paired off. But what's he look like? He looks asymmetrical, right? Without symmetry, because he's got this goofy little claw and this big old claw. What kind of crab is that, ocean goers? I'm afraid of the ocean and everything in it. What do you think it is? Any of you kids been to the ocean? Yes? But you didn't pick up any little fiddler crabs? That's a fiddler crab, I guess. And he's got one little tiny claw and one big claw, so he's not perfectly symmetrical. But again, bilateral symmetry, paired organs internally, that kind of stuff's all the same. So that's a fiddler crab. I just did that as kind of a trick. I'm sorry, that was mean. All right, Tanner, dinner crab. Yeah, maybe you probably could eat them. Sure. Why not? Don't kill turtles. I won't, Cortland. I missed a bunch of chat messages here. Wyatt, grab my strong hand. Oh, Wyatt, you're a funny kid. All right. Anyways, I tell you what, I'm trying to keep this right at half an hour. We're at right at half an hour. So you guys have any questions for me? Let me actually stop the recording, and then you can ask me questions. However, I stop the recording. Not stop video. That's not it. All right. Well, I'll just trim it out before I put it on YouTube. Any questions at all? Nope. You feel good about it? You're learning stuff? Cool. All right. Same time tomorrow? Get it at 2 o'clock?
Yep.
If you guys ever get sick of Zoom meetings, like I can't take this Zoom meeting nonsense, give me worksheets or a reading. Give me a book with reading because I don't want to do Zoom. I can totally have you go back to school and get your books, and I'll just be like, page this, these questions, whatever. If you want to switch it up, let me know because it doesn't bother me. It's just nice because you guys can ask questions. So everybody okay with – no? Everybody okay with the Zoom meetings?
Yes.
Better with keeping up lecture than doing something in your books? Okay.
Yep.
Me too. Honestly, me too. So anyways, thanks for your time. Have an awesome day.